Good afternoon to all of you joining us. I'm going to be hosting us today. My name's Howard Betts of Leaders Meets. Andrew Carpenter, who normally does this, is unfortunately being delayed on the road. So please bear with us whilst I do the hosting today. I'll say greetings to everyone that's joining us. In terms of the number of people in the room, we're expecting somewhere up to 100. So if we get sort of 60 to 70, we'll have done well. So whilst we wait for people to join, if you'd like to use the button, which is there, which is a chat button, you can let people know who you are, where you're from, and that gives a little bit of an introduction to everyone as to who's here. I'm just looking down at people I may know. So welcome to David Fleming, welcome to David Howells, welcome to Jason Jones, welcome to John Simcock, people I've seen before. So please just take we'll just give it a couple of minutes. So please take the time to let people know, and we'll get going today. Our session today is going to be led by Simon Horn of Stewart Milne Timber. He's the Technical and Development Manager. The topic today is what next for off-site manufacturing and why. Before we start today's session, we're going to run with a small poll of 5 questions, which we'll run in a minute. The aim of the questions is quite simple. It's to find out what the knowledge in the room is, and obviously for people to start to engage. We're going to be using a tool called Slido, and we can start to actually run the poll for those of you who've done it before. So John, if you could just put up the main screen again. We will have up there the QR code. For those of you who don't want to go in and use QR, you can go to slido.com and the code is LM, it'll come up again, here we come up as LM030921. You just need the hashtag, or if you want to use the QR code, that will enable you to get in and be able to start answering the poll in a moment. We're also going to be using Slido today for the Q&A. So if you have questions for Simon, please could you use Slido to put it in. When you tap your question in, it will be available for everyone else to see. And if people think that's a great question, one they'd like to ask, just vote for it by pushing the button. And that means that those sorts of questions that people think are good will come to the top and be answered first. So I think, given that we've now got 50 odd people in the room, given that time is going on us, I think we'll actually start today. So first thing I'd like to do is to run the poll. So if, John, you could put the poll questions up, I'll run through them with everyone. And a reminder, to get onto the poll, please use your QR reader, or to go to slido.com and use the hashtag. So if everyone's ready, John, can you put the questions up for us?
Just coming.
Okay, the first question is, for those of you who've got it there, and some people have already started filling it in, what is your experience of using off-site manufacture, and specifically timber frame construction? Well, we're getting the answers here, John, so I don't know whether you can cut those off the screen.
I don't need to do that at the moment, Howard. So
okay, well, perhaps it's best if we don't show the answers to lead people, John. So if you could take it down, I'll read the questions out and we'll do it the old-fashioned way. Second question is, where could off-site manufacture help your business best? Now, you've got a choice of quality, environmental, cost, time, health, and safety. So your choice is quality, environmental, cost, time, health, and safety. Okay. So the third question is, which sector particularly do you operate within? Residential, that's private, residential, affordable, commercial, or education. So please choose one of those.
you can choose as many as you like actually on these ones, Howard.
Can you? There we go then.
Yep.
So if we go to the next question then, please, John. What is the size of your business? So you have three choices here, which I would suggest is only one, I think. So make your choice, please. And from the point of view of the last question, how can we help you the most? OSM and timber frame knowledge and education, upfront analysis for an OSM and timber frame build solution, early commercial input at viability stage to support cost analysis. So if you've completed the poll, please send it to us. If you haven't, don't worry, you can carry on taking the poll. The poll will be open whilst Simon gives his presentation. So we won't be looking at the answers for a short while. So Simon, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Welcome. And I'm going to hand it over to you now, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say. So Simon, it's all yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to reverse it actually, because what next for off-site manufacturing and why? I'm actually going to start with why. Why should we be considering off-site manufacturing in the first place? And then I shall tell you about the benefits of it and what's next for it. You'll be familiar with the 7 C's of the world. I'd like to start with the 7 C's of off-site manufacture and Stuart Mill Timber Systems. And hopefully you can all see me, because this is me on screen with some visuals. So the first one I'm starting with today is choice. Timber frame is the UK's first choice compared to masonry with regard to off-site manufacture. And it will deliver on performance, energy, acoustics, fire, and speed. Next, I'm going to move on to cost. Timber frame is cost effective. I've said about my role in the business is the early engagement, the upfront. Early engagement is key for any off-site manufactured system, whether it's timber, light gauge steel, or volumetric. The early engagement to get the right structural solution for the project and then deliver the benefits that I'm going to go through, particularly costs and performance. The on-site construction phase is a key one as well, where again, there will be benefits that will benefit financially. Next is capacity. This isn't a concern for the off-site manufacturing industry, particularly for timber frame and particularly for Stuart Mill Timber Systems. We currently deliver 10,000 plots per year. That's 192 plots per week. So capacity is not a concern. We have 3 existing facilities. We refer to it as a hub and spoke mentality. So the hubs are the main facilities and the spokes are more regional. And that's where we are looking to expand and put spokes into more geographic locations so that we are closer to those regions for servicing the sites. Currently, we have 50 personnel in our technical department, 30 in our construction management, and we work with 65 accredited supply chain partners of the installation team across the south. Next up is commitment. This is definitely not an exclusive club. Everyone and anyone is welcome. In fact, the more the better, in order to drive productivity, efficiency, and ultimately benefit further financially. Lastly, climate and carbon. This one's obvious, ladies and gentlemen. A day doesn't go past without news coverage of an unprecedented weather event. Only yesterday, in the northeast states of America, flash flooding and tornadoes. But now it's getting serious. 45 fatalities yesterday due to extreme weather conditions. So if you've been counting, that's 6 C's. I said 7, because the 7th C is the biggest one of all. its challenge. Through the impact of CO2 emissions, the world is changing, like those unprecedented weather events we are seeing. So the next time you're lying awake in the middle of the night because it's too hot and you cannot sleep, think to yourself, perhaps it's time we review our carbon strategy and build the next project using timber. Because as a tree grows, it takes in CO2 emissions that just about every other manufacturing facility puts up into the atmosphere. And as such, a cubic meter of timber can store 1 metric ton of carbon dioxide. Timber is the only truly sustainable, mass-produced, renewable building material available. So the sooner we use it, the better for the environment and for all of us. I'm going to take you through a presentation now. It's a short presentation of 17 slides on what's next for off-site manufacturing using timber frame construction. You just have to bear with me. I need somebody to just, Howard, if you're there, can you acknowledge that you can see that?
Can't see it at the moment.
Okay.
Go
Just bear with.
to your screen and share it again. There you go. I think we're, yeah, if you just want to put it on slide view, that'd be super. Yep. Thanks,
You got
Simon.
that?
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
I have indeed. Carry on.
Thank you very much. The wonders of technology, everybody, and all the different formats that we have it in now. So, what next for off-site manufacturing using timber frame construction? So this opening slide that I put together, I've said about the climate challenge that we've got. We source material responsibly and reasonably, and the forests are Scandinavian for us. I will touch on homegrown timber as well, but Scandinavian for us. Our manufacturing facility is a dedicated manufacturing facility for off-site manufacture of timber frame components. We manufacture as much as we can off-site to improve the process of the construction phase on-site. So bottom right-hand corner, that's a project going up at the moment in Milton Keynes for L&Q counties, and you can see a large site of housing, and there are some apartment blocks on there as well. So why? I've covered off some of it with regard to the 7 Cs, but the more reasons environmentally and commercially I'm going to touch on as well. So just at the end of my 7 Cs, I said about as the tree grows, it takes in the carbon from the atmosphere. I'm sure you'll be familiar with the expression, the trees are the lungs of the earth. And they truly are. And using timber equally will reduce by about 1/3 the embodied carbon in a project. We source our materials responsibly and reasonably through a chain of custody process, so we know where the material is coming from. It comes from managed forests. For every tree that is planted within those managed forests, they plant more than they fell, because not every tree will be completely suitable. So the old adage that they plant more than they fell, they do. Particularly using timber frame and an off-site manufactured system, it's all about energy consumption or reducing energy consumption, and equally protecting that energy consumption during occupation. So if you think of the external superstructure, the external walls, as basically an insulation jacket that wraps around, like you would have put historically around a hot water tank, you would have put an insulation jacket around it. Effectively, we're doing the same with that timber frame, okay? And we are improving the energy efficiency of the building by using a timber frame system, because of the insulation properties and the thermal performance of that timber frame. I've said in the 7 Cs part of the introduction that replacing a cubic metre of concrete with timber and the value that that can take by saving a metric tonne of emissions, with the timber and the tree taking in those emissions as it grows. And as a business, as you'd expect, we're ISO 14001, we're ISO 18001 for our health and safety, but our 14001 for environmental, we recycle plastic and cardboard, etc., that comes in. So as a business, our own carbon footprint and our own energy efficiency is something we focus on as well. It's a natural material. It's Scandinavian for us. It comes from Sweden. We use spruce, pine, and fir. The homegrown stuff is okay for carcassing material, but not for structural framing material due to the climate. The UK climate is very dry, very wet, very arid, very dry, very wet, very arid, and the trees don't grow in a very uniform manner. In Scandinavian countries, particularly Sweden, where we import from, the trees grow much truer and straighter, much more stable climate, despite climate challenges. It's a sustainable material because it's renewable. We touched on that. The low production in energy, it takes 5 times more energy to produce the same capacity in steel or concrete than it does in timber, because timber grows naturally. And then we mill it and fell it. But the milling and felling process doesn't consume the same amount of energy that it takes to produce the same structural capacity as if it were steel or concrete. It's carbon storing, the lungs of the earth, I said. As they grow, they take in the emissions that everything else puts up there. And that insulation jacket that wraps around, that hot water blanket, basically, that goes around the house, is giving you a great thermal performance. Timber itself, compared to steel or concrete, which are sort of cold, inanimate objects, timber is actually a very warm material to use because of the growth rings and the structure of the tree. It actually is a very warm material for its thermal conductivity. So it's a good insulator in its own right. But then between the timber studs, which are at a maximum of 600mm centers, it's full of insulation. So it's very energy efficient. We're a panelized system, so it's very small to transport and easy to transport. It's very flexible in its design. It's a lightweight form of construction compared to masonry or steel and concrete. We're a lightweight form of construction. So architecturally, it gives flexibility to elevational treatments with recesses, projections, non-alignments, and to create those street scenes and added interest. Don't think of off-site manufacturers as if you are punching out rivets. These are tailored to suit the architectural design and the geographic location. Speed of construction, it's off-site manufacture, so we don't hit site until we have to. It's that just-in-time principle. And then the on-site delivery is much more efficient. In the UK, we're platform construction level by level, walls, floors, walls, floors, walls, roof on the top, to however many stories high. And if the whole project is planned and delivered and executed as an off-site manufactured project, it will deliver cost benefit. The embodied carbon side of things, so you're getting the gist of the messages today about using timber and about using off-site, and the benefits to the environment and the benefits on energy consumption. Energy and embodied carbon benefits that we are getting back by using timber frame and the systems that Stuart Milne particularly provides with its closed panel system, which is a Sigma 2 system, 6% less embodied carbon than if you were going to be using a PV solution. We've got benefits over masonry by at least 30 to 50% on the embodied carbon. And lastly, again, with our Sigma 2 closed panel system, and the closed panel system is an enhanced wall panel system compared to just an open panel timber frame, has benefits because of it's a better thermal performance and a better air tightness performance through a closed panel because it's an enhanced. And this is the way that off-site manufacturing using timber frame is going now. We're doing more in the factory. An open panel timber frame is hardly supplied now. It is looking for enhancements that deliver efficiency, and efficiency delivers cost benefit and program benefit on the building site. So the commercial improvement, I was touching on some of that just then, efficiencies and program benefits. So the top right-hand graphic there, we call that our partnership curve. So you'll be familiar, I'm sure, with Latham's report and Egan's report historically and previously about the construction industry. There's a big mindset change in the UK construction industry with regard to main contractor, subcontractor mentalities. In off-site manufacture, that big yellow shaded bubble to the left is where we do all the work in off-site. It's all the intellectual work that takes place to assess the project, make sure the right solution is there so that commercially it works, so that it still achieves the architectural design, it delivers the performance. We do all of that work and then we go into design and engineering of components that get installed on site. So there's a much more earlier engagement with off-site manufacture than there is with on-site manufacture. The slightly darker yellow shaded curve inside the large one, that's masonry. Masonry, bill of quantities, schedules of materials, you place your packages, order your materials and off you go. So the lead into site is much shorter. But the the execution on site is much longer versus off-site manufacture. We're in, we deliver, and we're back out again. Saving money on prelims, saving money on foundations in the ground with regard to we're a lightweight form of construction. So there's not so much cart away, there's not so much foundation engineering required. It's off-site manufactured, so we have controlled waste streams in the factory. So there's less waste on site. Again, filling up skips that need to go to landfill or recycling. Any investment on the project, we're on site for about 30% less time on a timber frame or an off-site manufactured project. We're about 30% less on site. You can see that by the bottom right-hand graphic, using a masonry solution versus our Sigma 2 system. About a 30% improvement over the build program. So if there's any finance secured against that development, that return on investment is coming in sooner, and the finance and investment and interest payments are lower. So there are benefits commercially, but if it's a late substitution of actually let's just change it, and we've done everything so far to date on our project for masonry, and it's a late substitution for an off-site system, you won't get the financial benefit. You've lost that, the left-hand side of that big partnership curve. So a bit about off-site manufacturing and the way it's going using timber frame, and particularly with Stuart Mill timber systems. So that's our dedicated manufacturing facility, top left-hand corner. That's the one in Oxford. We have a similar one up in Aberdeen. We call it a hub and spoke mentality. So those are hubs, and then the spokes are smaller facilities, one of which is in the central belt of Scotland, just to take some of the grunt out of coming down from Aberdeen to the central belt, and then from the central belt down to about Sunderland, Leeds, Nottingham, that sort of area, before we get cost prohibitive on haulage. The automation side of things, top right-hand corner, is basically, it's about efficiency. It's about manufacturing capacity and about efficiency. You can see from that graphic just about, there's not many operatives in the factory. We do have operatives, but we have an automated process as much as possible, mainly driven by health and safety and productivity outputs. The machines don't stop for tea breaks, okay? The machines will run 24/7. As long as there's timber going in the front, there's panels coming out the back. So the operatives are really in there to monitor and maintain the production lines. Bottom left-hand corner, quality is about those production lines. It's made by machine effectively, and accuracy is everything that the machines are producing. So there's no measure twice, cut once in the world of Stuart Mill. It's driven by a CAD/CAM link direct from the computer to the source. Speed of manufacture, I said, it'll run 24/7. I've given you the capacities that we can produce as a business and the number of units that we can produce per week. So speed is everything. But equally, don't think that, well, the build program isn't that aggressive, so we don't need to use offsite manufacture. It's still a benefit, even if the duration of the project isn't as build it as fast as we can, and it's sales driven because it's private housing. You bring it in on a just-in-time basis. You wait until you've received deposits, you've got completion dates lined up. We bring it in on a just-in-time basis. So again, there's efficiency on site that you haven't got materials being stored and that logistical challenge of being moved around a building site until used. We bring it in just as it's needed, install it, and then it's there. It's on the foundation, ready to be worked on internally and externally. So speed of construction is certainly a benefit for offsite once you've hit site. Design and the flexibility, that graphic that was on earlier, and architects like it because they can create varied street scenes, is you can see from that example there. Lightweight claddings, projections, an interesting roofscape. So the design flexibility is paramount with offsite, giving versatility to what is created. Performance. So the fabric first is what we say. Spend money in that fabric and less reliance on renewable technologies. The renewable technologies are getting better, but they're still, to a degree, in their infancy. Whereas timber frame, we know what it's going to deliver. Okay, we know that thermal performance, we know the air tightness that we can achieve. So spend the money in the fabric and go for that fabric first approach. Top right-hand corner is volume. And again, volume isn't a challenge for us. You can see that in the bottom right-hand corner as well with regard to scale and the size of the sites. That particular site in construction there was for the MOD. So this one was time-bound. It was driven because of service personnel coming back from Germany. And the challenge laid down by the Ministry of Defence was, can you build a house a day? And we exceeded it, actually. On a Friday, we were handing over 8 to 10 units every Friday. And there were 300 units across that site. So that's a different mindset, again, from where the UK construction industry is, certainly in residential. You're going to hand over 8 to 10 houses every week. Have you then got the supply chain in place to fit it out? And that's why it is about moving on. It's about doing things differently, okay? I said about the structure, it's a skeleton, effectively. So externally, it's aesthetic. Tile hanging, brickwork, render, timber boarding, whatever you like. It's aesthetic. That creates your street scenes, your placemaking. But the superstructure inside, that skeleton that does the load path work for the live load and dead load down to the foundation. That's what we work on. We get that as engineered efficiently as possible, again, to benefit cost. Design, planning, integration of the services, and the nasty C word. The nasty C word that the building construction industry in the UK is choosing to embrace it slightly, but yeah, we'll keep it to arm's length because there's this resistance to a degree with getting too into bed with a supplier. That's false because you're losing the benefits. You're losing the benefits of the information that we can provide with our systems and bring to a project. So that graphic that's in the background of that slide, again, the world of BIM, it seems to be, despite the efficiencies which can be gained by using BIM, it seems to be used really on big chunky commercial buildings still, and not necessarily in residential stuff. And that's an oversight because in residential, it can still have an effect and a positive effect with regard to efficiency of information. Single point design. Why would you pay the architects and take the architect's information, give it to somebody else for them to reproduce it in their system, i.e. the engineer, to give it to the subcontractor, supply chain, to then be reproduced again? Single point design, BIM thinking and BIM methodology. Whether you adopt the higher levels of BIM that you would apply to a commercial building, or you're down at the lower levels of BIM. It's just an efficient way of working, and should be embraced. Off-site manufacture, I said walls, floors, roofs for as many stories as we go up in height. So we're making a panelised system of wall panels, generally now insulated. We've got 3 different systems that we do: Alpha, Delta, Sigma. Sigma is a fully insulated closed panel. That one that's top left-hand corner, that's Delta. That is insulated in the factory, not at site level, so it's again more efficient. Windows fitted in the factory, again more efficient. Health and safety benefits, quality benefits, and logistical benefits of moving a lorry load of windows and joinery units around a building site to plot to plot to plot. How about you just have them all delivered to the factory? We'll fit them all into the panels as they go down that move-in production line. Floor cassettes, top right-hand corner, we'll make them as large as possible. We will double span from external wall to external wall over the top of load-bearing internal walls, and we'll make the cassette as large as we can make it to then transport it. Because again, that's bringing back efficiencies to the construction phase, to the material consumption, and to the structural solution that's applied to the project. Roofs, ground level erect, as displayed in that image, ground level erect for us, health and safety first and foremost. There's no operatives working at height. The roof is framed on the adjacent foundation to the plot that is being built. And so the guys are working effectively on the foundation, stood on a foundation, framing a roof and bracing it. And then at the end of the day, they will lift that roof onto the building. So it has benefits on program and benefits on health and safety. And then the finished product, again, that's a typical street scene that you're going to see up and down the UK of housing. That one's very traditional with its brickwork and stone surrounds to the windows. We've got more contemporary stuff that you saw a couple of slides back. Timber's the raw material. I've touched on that a fair few times now. I think you're getting the message. Timber's the raw material. For us, it's management of that material. So from a yield of timber that comes into our factory, only 3.8% is waste. The rest of it is used, but it's timber. So even the 3.8% that are offcuts that we can't use, they get recycled because it's a recyclable material. So we partner with a couple of local companies that come and take that timber away. And then we supply into site finished components. So we aren't filling up the skips with waste material on site. Everything is cut and banded if it's loose, done from saw files. And if it's finished components, obviously a whole component is going into site. We manage the resource. Again, we've partnered. We set up and started the business in 1975. In Aberdeen, Stuart Milne is still at the top of the tree. And we've partnered with the forests that supply to us since 1975. So we've got a very established and strong supply chain. It's a managed resource, so we are very close to those 2 suppliers, and then it's a controlled use of that material as well, and what we do with it. Cost of materials is a challenge at the moment, and that's across the UK construction industry. It's plasterboard, it's steel, it's timber, it's concrete. Because of the past sort of 12 to 18 months and the challenges that we've had around the world with the pandemic, there are material shortages in some areas. But we are starting to see that return now and costs come back down again, certainly for timber. It's energy too efficient to produce. So I touched on 5 times more energy to produce the same structural capacity in steel or concrete than it does to produce that structural capacity in timber. The carbon storing as the tree grows and taking out the emissions that everything else puts into the atmosphere. And we got the support of the environmental bodies by using timber and the benefit that it does give back. Short video now, which I hope works. I shall talk over the top of it. This is our manufacturing facility in Witney, Oxfordshire. So the production line runs down the factory. We've got floor cassettes automated. So this is the start of the wall line. So the material has already been pre-cut and optimized the saws, comes into a framing station. So again, health and safety, there aren't nail guns you'll see. The guys are using a framing station to frame that panel. The operative sees an HMI screen, tells him the next component, and the panel moves down. There are various stations. This is an insulation filling station. So again, very efficient. It's done by a canopy that comes over the panel and it blows in recycled glass. Panels then travel on. They're sheathed on the outside to give them a structural capacity against horizontal wind forces. Then there's a breather membrane goes on. So again, it's a moisture control. We'll pre-fit windows into the panels so that the panel comes out to site, and there's a health and safety benefit plus a program benefit, a quality benefit, and a logistics benefit. On site, it's platform construction, so walls, floors. We use mobile telescopic cranes to lift in the components. Floor cassettes, as I said earlier, large as possible. And the ground level erect of the roof is basically the roof goes on at the end of the day. So within the day, using this system, you've got your house up. They're not always as quick as a whole day. They can be slightly longer. And we are still building, as you can see, houses with thatched roofs. So just because it's a modern method of construction doesn't mean we have to go away from traditional building styles. Stone cladding, stone surrounds to the windows, and a thatched roof. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much, Simon. If you'd like to stop screen sharing.
Yeah, just stop the share.
Yeah, thanks very much indeed. I think what we'll now do, very informative. We do have a number of questions, but before we take those, I think what we'll do is ask John if he can please put up the results to the poll that you gave to people to see what sort of results we've got. So, okay, John, so if we could have the answer to the first question. So the first question asks, what is your experience of using off-site manufacturing, specifically timber frame construction? So it looks like low is the answer for just the majority in the room, with only 9 saying high. So do you want to make any comment, Simon, on that? Is this sort of what you currently find? Is this typical, or is this just what we've got in the room?
It must be just what we've got in the room, Howard. I must admit, and no disrespect to anybody that's on this call, but I am staggered that it is as low as that. Across the UK currently, off-site manufacture using timber frame, it's about 32%. So that reflection in the room today is not 32% of what you've got on screen in this webinar. The 32% is a third, basically. We haven't got a third on screen. So I am surprised at that in answer to that, Howard.
Okay, fine. I mean, from my point of view, it's all learning to me. So
there's a lot to go at, everybody, basically. So there's a lot to go at.
Okay, can we have the next question then, please, John? Where could off-site manufacture help your business best? It seems to be the choice here is quality. Time comes second. Again, Simon, any comments you'd like to make on that?
Actually, that one does warm my heart that it's coming as quality. So thank you, everybody that selected that one particularly, and closely followed by environmental warms my heart as well. Time and cost are the two that I would normally expect to see at the top, particularly if it's a commercial-based audience. Time is money, and so time and cost normally go up at the top. But the fact that people are latching on to quality, then we certainly can help your business by using off-site manufacture. 1 in every 10 panels that goes down that automated process is taken off the line and checked. Just because it's made on a machine doesn't mean it's going to be completely accurate, because the machine might start running out of level or start running out of line. That's why we have on-site engineers. So PPM, planned preventative maintenance, is what we deliver. We have engineers on site just in case there is a hiccup with any of the automated manufacturing processes that are going through, whether it's saws or manufacturing lines. But all of that delivers then the quality. Like I say, 1 in every 10 panels comes off the line and gets checked anyway. But it is all about quality. It's about quality of manufacture and then quality of on-site installation, because all of that is protecting ultimately the performance that then is delivered and the longevity and the assurity of what we are building for homeowners that are going to live in that property. So that is warming, to be honest, Howard, that quality is at the top, very much so.
Okay, thanks. Let's move on to the next one. So which sector particularly do you operate within? It seems that affordable residential sort of hits the high here. So is this a sort of standard audience for you? Is this the sort of where you would expect it to be?
Okay, so if you're looking for trends in my answers, that warms me as well, Howard, because again, the affordable sector is a sector that we're very strong in at Stuart Mill Timber Systems as well. Yes, we supply to some of the nationals with regard to the private sector, but the affordable sector is the private sector's driven by different drivers. The affordable sector, it's very much, it's about performance, it is about cost, but it's about performance and it's about quality, which ties in the fact that the last highest one was quality. And so if the main sector of the audience today is the affordable sector, then thank you and welcome for joining today. Because like I say, we are working very hard in this sector, particularly in other parts of the UK, with some consortiums. So we are into a consortium that's across the whole of Hertfordshire, made up of 15 local authorities and housing providers, housing associations that is, and local authorities that have clubbed together. So I said about collaborative and collaboratism and working together and sharing of information, etc. What that little consortium is doing, it's an unofficial consortium, they're not signed up to anything, but it's just an information sharing consortium that we're engaged with, and we're supplying to several of them. They're not all there yet. They've all expressed an interest and a desire, but they haven't all actually done it yet. But those housing associations and local authorities are all looking at off-site for all the benefits that it delivers. Because in parts of those regions, in that region, there is a challenge of fuel poverty for some homeowners and occupiers. So by using off-site manufacture and benefits that it delivers with the environment and cost and efficiencies, etc., to us and to developers and contractors, equally, it delivers to occupiers with regard to that thermal performance and the running costs and the challenges to some occupiers that do have fuel poverty concerns. So that does warm my heart, Howard. Yes, very much.
Okay, great. Let's move on to the next one, John. What is the size of your business? It would appear that the majority of the people attending today are £10 million plus organisations. So that again, I would think is good news for you.
Yeah, it is good news for us. But equally, I'm not discounting the lowest values on there, the £5 to £10 million. So again, staying in that back to that affordable sector, some of the sites that come along are brownfield sites. And so the brownfield sites are a challenge logistically. There's about interaction with the local community because you're building in a brownfield site that's being regenerated. So you do want a reduced build program. You want to get in, build it, get back out again. Less impact on the social community that development is going within. So some of those projects, Howard, are much smaller. We're talking a dozen units. You know, it's a brown site. It's garages on block, typically. That sort of regeneration of a site that's being identified. And the garages on block have become, undesirable areas. So they're regenerating them with small housing. So even housing sites like, say, a dozen units, still positive for offsite because of that speed. We make it offsite, bring it in, deliver it, install it, and we've gone again. So less impact at that site level. So even the smaller customers in their business size that are on the screen and the audience today, I'd say we have a benefit to them. Yes, it's refreshing to see on the audience today that some of the customers are of a much larger size, which is great. And again, we have the solutions and the capacity to service those larger customers and larger projects. So we have something to fit everybody that's on screen today. Don't think wherever you sit within the size of those businesses that we can't serve you, basically.
Okay, thanks very much. We've got one more poll result, and then we've got about 9 questions. We've got about a minute to cover each one. Okay, Simon. So that's
right.
Okay. So let's have the last one up. How can we help you the most? So it seems that OSM and timber frame knowledge and education seems to be where people want, and I think, hopefully, from my point of view today, not knowing much about it at all, I've learned an awful lot. So in terms of knowledge and education, I think that you've served my needs. So let's hope that's the same with everyone else.
Right. Just a quick one on that, a 1-minute answer. Go to our website. We have 9 modules. So if your focus is technical, we've got a module. If your focus is commercial, we've got a module. If it's health and safety and construction, we've got one. If it's sales, if you're thinking about, okay, well, I build them, then I want to sell the benefits of offsite manufacture using timber frame. We have a sales and after sales module as well. So you can sign up for those. We deliver them, again, electronically on Teams, over the internet. We deliver those modules. And obviously they go hand in hand with working with you. So education and knowledge, do head to our website at Stuart Mill Timber Systems.
Okay, Simon, we've got now 9 questions. I don't know whether we could put them up, John. The first one is, do you have any advice when clients are saying insurance is not available for timber structures and is a barrier to its use?
Yeah, perseverance is the advice, because the insurance industry, it's all about alleviating risks and mitigating against risk. And certainly since the Grenfell tragedy, we've been risk averse. We've gone too far the other way. If you're familiar with the EW1S forms that came out about fire and the materials used in external wall construction, the RICS have actually retracted that and gone and taken it away again, because it wasn't a knee-jerk reaction. It was a good idea, I think, in concept. However, the insurance bodies particularly, and that wanted to be risk averse, natural reaction, suddenly we found ourselves going the other way. We were going too far the other way. It's about managing the risks. So, but the insurance bodies, this is about education. So the last slide we had was about education and knowledge. This is about, they don't understand, and it's like, well, it's timber burns. That's the first and foremost thing that's on an insurance body's mind. Yes, it does. It's been a great source of fuel and heat for many, many years, but it doesn't self-combust, okay? And it actually has a resistance to fire, like I say, because it doesn't self-combust. It takes everything to get a fire going. So, but we mitigate against it. We mitigate against it in our design, in our planning, and in our execution. And it's on the forefront because we use timber. But it's a building site. The HSG document regards fire on construction. It doesn't say fire on timber frame building sites. It says fire in construction. So, yes, perseverance, unfortunately, with insurance bodies, and it's knowledge and education. If anybody wants information to support them, if they're having a challenge, please do get in contact with me. I'll just carry on, Howard. Do you have any advice when clients are saying insurance available? Sorry, I'm out of sequence now. Is timber still cost effective given recent increase in cost of timber? Yes, it is. Timber is still cost effective. Yes, there was a spike. We saw that spike as well. It was quite a large spike. Like I said in my presentation, it wasn't just timber. It was everything that was manufactured, basically in the way of materials. It was steel, concrete, plasterboard, and timber that were all impacted by the reduction of the availability of material. And there was a negative impact. That there's only so much material to go round, and therefore, the costs did escalate. Those costs are coming back down again. If you follow as we do, the lumber shares and the prices of lumber, it is coming back down again. And really it hit its peak in about, I would say, May of this year was the real high point. Since June, July, August, it has been coming steadily back down again. So it is cost effective. To get the greatest cost efficiency for a timber frame project using offsite is early engagement. Can't stress that enough. Don't treat us with a long arm. Please welcome us in and have the early conversation. Do you have any advice? No, I've done that one. Given supply chain problems now affecting most sectors, how will this impact timber supplies and timber? Can't see that bit. Let me just move that out of the way. There.
John,
Supply
can
chain
you share the questions individually at all, and perhaps show them in completion?
Given supply chain problems now affecting most sectors of UK business, how will this impact on timber supplies and timber manufacture? Like I said, there's a bit of duplication with that one and the availability and the increases in cost. The timber supplies are coming back slowly but surely. They are coming back. Like I say, we import from Sweden, and the timber stocks are rising back up again. We buy the benefit to coming to a provider like ourselves, not knocking any of the other members of the supply chain, but we don't buy through a distributor. We buy direct from the sawmills effectively and from the forest. So the supply chain strength is much, much greater. There is that relationship with them because of the trading that we've had. But where you might see some challenge, certainly on cost and availability, is if you're going through a merchant for your materials. If you can buy from an actual supplier like ourselves, you would benefit financially there, because obviously the volumes which we buy drives cost as well. Excuse me, because of the economies of scale and the numbers of units that we're delivering, therefore versus the amount of timber that we are buying. Do I just scroll down, Harrod, because I can't see the next one? It says from
John needs to scroll down.
Does he?
John, yeah, John, can you scroll us down?
There was a question from Toby Hammer. If roof and floors are going to be made in modular cassettes, is there anything? And I can't see the next bit.
Okay, hold on. I'll see if I can get that then.
Yeah, that one, that question. Okay, thank you. If roofs and floors are going to be made in modular cassettes, is there any special that needs to be done compared to installing fluid piecemeal? Yeah, because when we make them, so in answer to Toby's question, everybody, when we make a floor cassette or a roof cassette, obviously it's engineered as a cassette, as opposed to single components being installed on site. So the example, as I sort of touched on in the presentation, for floor joists, for example, Toby, we buy those 15 meters long. Okay, we buy 4 different thicknesses and 4 different depths, and then we put the right or the best structural solution against it commercially to suit that architectural design. So installing a floor cassette, there we may well double span. Yes, you'll have an internal load-bearing wall, otherwise your joists to go from outside wall to outside wall would be very deep, very wide. So we will use load-bearing internal walls, but we will double span over them. So in conventional sort of masonry, you might just span external wall to an internal load-bearing wall, then span again. We won't. We'll double span from the external wall right across to the other external wall or to the party wall. And typically the floor cassettes will go in at about 9 meters, 9.5 meters long, by about 3.5 to 4 meters wide. So that means we do engineer it slightly differently. Quite commonly when we get a set of drawings in where they've done sections, etc., they span in the short directions because that's traditionally what you would do in masonry. We don't. We look for the long spans to get efficiency of the material consumption and efficiency of the manufacturing of the components. Similar to the roofs, we engineer the roof and then design it so that it can be lifted. So it is slightly different engineering that we apply, because we've got that lifting process and the loads that it imposes onto the structure when it is lifted. So it's not anything special, Toby. It's just the finite engineering details that go with you're manufacturing a component firstly before delivering that to site. Next one, Howard or Toby, John, I think it was. It's in control of the screen. Who produces? Oh no, it was who produces the stairs. I saw for a second. Oh no, there's the one above it. Given supply chain problems, no, I've done that one. So PI insurance. No, it was the. Okay, we'll stay on that one quick. Who produces the stairs and when are they delivered to the project? How are stair openings and the floor protected until the stairs are installed? The stairs usually come in from a dedicated stair supplier. We don't manufacture stairs. We concentrate on structural components. That's what we're experts as. Since 1975, I've done it personally for the past 30 years. I've worked in timber frame. So we concentrate on the timber frame superstructures, Richard, and we leave stairs to people that just manufacture stairs all day. What we do is obviously allow for that stair opening within the floor cassette, and we'll try and put it within one floor cassette, again, to try and avoid the trimming out, etc. We'll try and put a stair opening within one cassette. It is then protected with an infill panel, and that infill panel provides a full prevention. So we're platform construction, walls, floors, walls, roof on the top. We go up within a four-sided scaffold. So the floor cassettes are lifted in straight from the bed of the lorry onto the wall panels, and within the floor cassette that's got the stairwell opening, Richard, there will be an infill panel. And that doesn't get taken out until the stairs are ready to be pitched into that opening. Again, off-site manufacture, and this will be the same for other systems. It's about efficiency and it's about planning. So the investment in time up front is where you'll get the benefit, because the on-site construction phase with staircases, with plasterboard, have those materials there and ready, so that as we are installing the timber frame, those components are ready to be lifted in at the same time. We've got the plant there. So why wouldn't you make use of that plant, have the materials that are going to be installed later available to be lifted in as we're lifting in the walls, floors and the walls. So it's about coordination rather than you turn up 2 weeks later with the staircase and you've got to try and then get that into the building. It's just useful. It doesn't need all the spindles and handrails, it just needs the flights, so that, which is obviously the long cumbersome part, to be available to us. So think about your planning and your execution of delivery of materials. Next one, John. There was one other question, I think. Oh no, there's loads of them. Yes, we are ISO 9001. Thank you. Okay, what are Stuart Milne's thoughts regarding the advantages that the concrete industry says concrete frame builders have regarding fire and acoustics over timber frame?
Simon, before you say that, I think we're beginning to get people dropping out. So if people want to carry on, that's fine. We'll go over time. But for those who want to actually leave, two things. Firstly, could you please give us feedback on your thoughts on today's session? And you'll find that is in Slido. We will leave that open till 1:15. Secondly, in terms of next week, please do make a note to join us next week. We do have an interesting session coming up. John, could you put up next week's topic at all? Hopefully it will come up. Caught you out there. Okay. And lastly, if any of you would like to get a PD personal development CDP certificate, we have a number for you, John. Have you got that one there as well, please?
Yeah, I'll do that now.
Have you got the code there? Here we go. There you go. For those of you who want to get your ProPass account, you can go to CE771 and you will get that within the next few days. I'd like to thank people who want to sign out for your attendance, and look forward to seeing you again next week. So just for those of you interested in getting the final answers, I'll hand back to Simon now, who will take us through, I think, what is the last question. So back to you now, Simon. So thank you for bearing with us on that.
It's all right. Thank you, everybody that's leaving. Thank you for attending this morning.
So would you like to take the last question that someone had?
Yeah, there was. I haven't got it on screen. If John could put it back on screen.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was to do with a challenge from the concrete.
It is. Yeah.
Concrete sector.
It says, what are Stuart Mill's thoughts regarding the advantages that the concrete industry says concrete frame buildings have regarding fire and acoustics over timber frame?
Yeah, and again, this is an easy one to answer, because the other sectors, the other construction sectors, so concrete or masonry, as in brick and block, are basically running scared. And so they're running scared because what they can't achieve is they can't achieve where I started today, which is the environmental challenge. Okay. And our raw material is the only raw material that's truly sustainable out there. It's the only raw material that has an environmental benefit, not negative. And so the concrete industry and like I say, the masonry industry to a degree are looking at ways to nitpick and try and score points using that expression. So fire and acoustics is one that they think they can achieve because we use timber. The actual acoustic properties of a timber frame building, if I'll do them in reverse as to what's on the screen, the acoustic properties of the timber frame buildings, and it's the one feedback we get in addition, straight after the buildings are very warm, is the buildings are very quiet. The acoustic performance far exceeds building regulations, actually far exceeds robust details. So robust details set themselves up as if you use their details, you get a 5 dB improvement between separating walls or separating floors. We exceed the 5 dB. So the 5 dB was a 5 dB improvement over building regs. We're actually 10 dB over that requirement. So the acoustics is not a concern for us at all. I know what the concrete guys are, obviously they've got mass, they've got density, and they've got sheer thickness of walls that they get their acoustic performance through. But we don't get, because we're not a hard surface material like concrete and that, we don't get reverberation in the timber frame. So acoustically, the feedback we get is the houses are actually very quiet. With regard to the fire one, again, the timber frame fires, from a press coverage point of view, they make very sensationalist images on social media and social networks that are out there now, and so they're over exposed, if you like. I'm not belittling fire. We take it very seriously, but timber doesn't self-combust, and timber has a resistance to fire in the first place. It has a char rate available, and then it can be treated, etc. But it's protected. It's not exposed. The timber is within a fire lining, which is the plasterboard, and then externally we've got fire barriers, etc. Within the external cavities and within internal cavities on separating walls, etc. So there are no concerns over fire. SFOA, that's the Chief Fire Officers Association, the HSE, don't have any concerns over fire, over timber frame buildings. It's what they've got in place is they've got management processes in place, and so that's what we follow. We're audited on those, and we have our checks and balances in place to make sure that we're delivering the requirements to meet the fire regulations. Every building, forget it's concrete, it's steel, it's timber, it's a modular building. Every building has to adhere to Part B of the approved documents. We're the same. So you get the same performance out of us. You get 30-minute walls, you get 60-minute walls, you get 60-minute floors. You get the same fire performance. You get travel distances the same in a timber frame building as you do in a masonry or concrete building. They're not shorter in a timber frame building. They're the same. So I do get niggled by when parts of the sector come on and they start chipping away at what they think are weaknesses. There aren't weaknesses. We've been building timber buildings since the 15th century. They're still standing. They've not self-combusted and burnt down. So don't think that because it's timber, it has a weakness in any one area. No, it doesn't. It's positive in all areas. And in fact, it's positive in more areas than concrete and more areas in masonry. And that's why they're trying to knock us down.
Okay.
Hopefully that answers your question, Toby.
Okay, Simon, many thanks. I think it's probably now time to wrap up today. And thank you very
everybody.
much for your time. So we look forward to seeing people again next week. Many thanks for attending, and many thanks for Simon. Have a great weekend to everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Cheerio.